Hey folks, because you're here, I wanted to give you a ton of value just to continue to deliver on a promise we really want to uphold here in the labs, which is you have so much value, you almost don't need to go anywhere else unless you're building specialized and different skill sets from other locations. Nothing against other teachers, but we want this to be your home for building real skills that translate into tangible marketplace ready skills that you can deploy and use right away. So one of the courses I want to give you is a 50-minute class. You're going to get it in the next minute. It's going to start playing on how to actually run an online business. Now, this is a class I recorded when I first started working in AI, which was around 2023, but the concepts are evergreen. They will work today. Take it and apply your own thinking, apply what you're learning here in the labs. As you know, we have week-to-week live calls, co-working. We have amazing ways for you to take advantage of the expertise that's right here inside First Movers with actual integrators on staff doing big things. So apply the knowledge you're going to learn in those week-to-week classes, because something to think about is AI is emerging literally week by week, right? And so the concepts you learn in this class, for example, how to run payroll, there could be an AI solution that allows you to run payroll at the touch of a button in a whole different way. So I really encourage you in this AI age, blend what you're about to learn, which are concrete, evergreen. I'm telling you, these work. Concrete evergreen keys of building a real online wealth income stream with an actual business. Not some pyramid scheme, not some idea, not some third-party vendor system structure, but your owned platform, which is the best way to build some online wealth, real estate, ROI down the road. So I'm going to give you all of that in this next video, and I just encourage you to blend that with what you're going to learn week to week in our live training classes as we unveil to you on a regular basis what's new in AI, what you can do with agents, what you can do with workflows, because I will tell you here in the labs, there's no knowledge that we hold back from you. And sometimes we are quoting out projects that are over $100,000 bids. We're giving you all that knowledge for a fraction of the price right here in the labs. So show up to those weekly calls along with learn these evergreen principles that I have been practicing for over a decade. All right, that said, let's hop into this 50-minute class. Really encourage you to pay attention because you're going to learn so much from it. It is one of the best I've recorded on this topic. Enjoy. I hope you're ready because this is going to be a crazy in-depth lesson. And you might already be familiar with this if you're an amazing entrepreneur already. I still recommend getting through this whole lesson so maybe you can take away some golden nuggets. But in this lesson, I want to share with you the keys of building a wealth-bringing online brand. Yes, actual foundations and tactics here to build wealth, because what are we in this for? Are we in this just for some sales today that might be gone tomorrow? No, I hope that you're in this to build a lasting brand and be a part of building a lasting brand if you're coming at this from the writing perspective. So if you're a writer, this might not be relevant to you, but if you are the entrepreneur, if you are the person building your own AIO blog, this is 100% relevant. I recommend sticking through the whole thing. We're going to cover the foundations of what a lasting brand should look like. We're going to cover marketing and sales, how to really look at those two things correctly, and then stepping into the shoes of a CEO. So this isn't your typical blogging lesson, right? We're going way beyond it. And the reason we are is I did spend a year coaching and consulting in 2022, and I found that this part of building a business is often completely skipped or forgotten. And that's why I wanted to create a lesson just on this for AIO Blogger. So let's talk about building the foundations of a lasting brand. The brand that you build, and we talked about this in earlier lessons, so this should sound familiar to you. Clarity is critical. Instant clarity to the market that you serve. Clarity on the value you provide. You want to hit that market and you want to provide value. You want to be clear, crystal clear. So if you're going for catchy and creative over clear, not good. You always want to go with clarity. So your brand name, if you haven't decided on that yet, now is the time to do that. And if you're asking yourself, well, I'm not too sure about this, and maybe you have 3 or 4 choices, you need that gut yes. If you have a business making sales, if you've already built this brand name, Don't touch what's working. Leave it alone. Let your brand name live on. So whenever you look at the top of your industry, this is a good thing. And whenever you talk to potential customers, this is a good thing. However, none of it's as good as your instincts. Here's why. Whenever you talk to only potential customers about your brand name ideas, sometimes they don't know what they want. Very important note to make here. And if you're looking at competitors, they might have a lot more income. They might be a lot more established. So it's almost better to study your competitor versus a customer, because that customer may not know what it is they want. They may actually guide you wrong. But if you look at an established competitor with actual sales track record, market placement history behind them, you can study them, not to copy them, right? But to take clarity and inspiration from the words that they use. Also, if you haven't done this yet, if you haven't figured out your brand name yet, go for a walk, get outside, step away from the desk, get in the shower, look for ideas. One of my students that I've coached had her best brand idea hit her when she was working out. So let your gut work. Spend the time here, right? Take some days. I have coached business owners and it took them a couple weeks to land on that perfect brand name. You go at your own speed here. If you are a fast-paced machine, be a fast-paced machine. Listen to your gut. If you need time, take that time. So ChatGPT is a great assistant to help you come up with these ideas. You can literally feed it a prompt, tell it who you are. I am a bookkeeper building an online business. My target market is the small business owner. Give me 10 brand names. Really, really simple to do that. So hat tip there to use ChatGPT. So here's some examples of some amazing brand names that were mapped out from the entrepreneur and what they do. These are memorable brands. I wanted to share this with you if you're still at that place of building out your brand name. So how is a good brand name developed? From what you do, an irresistible offer solving a market pain with instant clarity to that market and your value. Okay, Jeff Hunter, he provides VAs. He helps entrepreneurs by giving them a trained VA. VA staffer. Did you hear me say clear? That's a clear brand name. Chris Kirksey offers high ROI SEO services. Direction.com. Whoa, that's memorable. It's interesting because his story is he was an Army vet and he took out a loan to afford that domain. But this is how we need to think. And he has now an almost $2 million a year business, right? So if we think correctly here, we won't play small. Don't play small at this stage, but also get very clear. Don't be existential. Be clear with your brand name. So my AI community is Content Hacker for content marketers, entrepreneurs, marketers that want to create content with AI. Get there faster, better, more efficiently. That's Content Hacker. It's a community, courses, live events, right? All the things. The technology that we're building, the AI content writing tool, is called Content at Scale. Clear. Crystal clear. See how we didn't name it AI? We named it the thing that it is that we do. Here's another example. An entrepreneur, Jordan Mather, he helps physical therapy firms scale through ads. Clinical marketer. Oh, that's good. He got his industry in there, but he's very clear that he's your marketer. Christelle takes all the stress of bookkeeping off of you. Better Ledger Bookkeeping. Beautiful, clear. Brian Clark trains content marketers, copy blogger. He helps bloggers become good at copy and content. So I also want to remind you that the better the website you build, the lesser investments you have to make to fix it later on. So you've heard this from me already multiple times in this course, but please do not cheapen out on just getting a fast, cheap website. You will regret it because you'll end up nowhere. Invest. Get a beautiful brand built. Put in the time and the cost. But don't do it all yourself. Map it out yourself. Get the brand name yourself. But please hand it off. You are not the one supposed to be building your own website if you're not a website designer by trade. So we have recommended partners that we will link to below this lesson. I do recommend checking them out and expect to pay anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 for a beginner website. If you have a lot more content to publish, expect to pay more. But this is how you get an amazing website. Whenever I built ContentHacker.com, I paid 10 grand, and that was an initial website. Whenever we rebuilt ContentAtScale.ai with 7 to 8 pages, currently launching December of 2023, that cost almost 20,000. So your investments here, you don't have to pay 20 grand, right? You can start at 5, but I'm telling you what, the investment in a great website that has solid UX, that's a term to look for. That means the journey of your end user, their experience, copywriting, get a good copywriter involved. You can even use ChatGPT yourself, and the actual design and development. Figma is a great tool that most good UX designers create websites in, and then they're going to launch it on WordPress. So look for that process. Look for those skills in the partners that you hire. Don't cut it down and get cheap. You will not get a great website. Great websites are not cheap. Okay, so if you haven't decided your brand name, now's the time to do that. Think about what you do and think about clarity to whom you serve. So this sentence here is referencing another course. Go back to your target homework and look through market research calls. And all that means is we were asking people inside that course to actually do market research calls. And that's something you can do if you really want to dig deep, is actually sit down, have coffee with, schedule a Zoom call with the person that would ideally hire you for that service and listen to their language. That's huge. That will help you refine your brand name. So if you haven't done that, that is a great tip here. Okay, so what about your offer? If you are going to offer a service, don't be afraid to offer a wide range here. Right? We've talked about AIO services, package that up, value stack. And if you're just starting out and you want to offer services, think about 1 or 2 very clear offers. You can always add on more later, but don't launch with too many offers. So it's what you love doing for a market with an irresistible offer, solving their biggest pain point. And if you've talked to your clients, you've actually heard that, right? On sales calls, market research calls. That's critical, being able to hear that. And then that brand name that's like ringing a bell. Oh, VA staffers. Oh, Content Hacker, smart content strategies. Oh, Content at Scale. I can get all my content at scale done here. Clarity. So if you are teaching a course, if you are a coach, you want to think about the transformation that you offer your audience. What's that end transformation? And you want to solve the most urgent and or the biggest pain points. Okay, so best transformation, biggest transformation that they actually want, and what's that most urgent or that most painful pain point, the one they need to solve today, or the one that's the biggest one in the room. And here's where you can take it a step further, not just your brand name and your marketing and your copy, but you could actually create courses to solve these pain points. We were sitting with an Indian family and they were demonstrating how to serve their particular cuisine. And it hit us to tell them, you need to create a course on that. Teach people how to learn your culture and serve that food. There's so many ways you can create courses. There's so many ways you can create digital products just by seeing what it is people need. You know, we were the people that didn't know how to eat like that. We were like, what? You just shifted my thinking. You just changed my life in a little way. I'm never going to eat this type of food the same again. So that kind of transformation is what you want to think about. And there's probably a bigger transformation than learning how to serve Indian food, right? I'm not saying that could make a good course. You do want to think about the biggest transformation, but still, what if that was a good course? What if you talked to people and found out, hey, do you know how to eat this food? Do you know how to hold the utensils? Do you know how to serve it? Probably a bit of a market there and a potential need for a course. So don't write off any idea. Think through them all. So whenever you're doing a service-based offer, we talked about this in the AIO services creation lesson, but you want to also think about that huge pain point. And I'll tell you, it's content over and over. That's why the AIO content deliverables are potentially genius, right? Because you can now use AI as your service provider, do some human work, stack that, resell that, bam. And the client in the end is getting great content, right? So even if it only takes me an hour to do a amazing content calendar, I'm still charging thousands of dollars. Don't undercount your knowledge here. And especially if you're the one driving, if you're the optimizer of the AI, that's still worth a lot. Packages go for more than ad hoc, meaning one-off as needed. But still, clients may want ad hoc, so you might want to offer that behind the scenes on top of your packages. A great example of packages comes from marketinginsidergroup.com. This is Michael Brenner. He has built some great services and he sells these to corporations. And how he sells it is he teaches. He comes in, he teaches a workshop, and then on the back end of that workshop, he'll sell you a content package. And he's actually more remote. Whenever the pandemic hit and they were in a lockdown, right? He had to stay home. So he figured out how to do this over Zoom. And now they don't really need to spend 4 hours in a boardroom. They're selling these with a simple Zoom call with a consultation. So businesses need content. They need content marketing. They need to do inbound marketing. Now, if you're thinking about digital products, courses, and coaching, there's two different brackets, low ticket and high ticket. Low ticket is often your book, your course, your ebook, or a workshop. High ticket could be a high ticket course, coaching, masterminds, that type of thing. So how do you differentiate? If you're like, well, I think I want to launch a course, I want to do coaching, but how do I know what to charge here? On the low ticket side, again, usually books, courses, ebooks, guides, workshops, these can go anywhere from $1 up to $5,000. That's considered low ticket. They're easy to launch, easy to sell. They're great for building community, especially if you're in that under $49 bracket. And there is no revenue bottleneck because these are lower priced offerings. I've sold a $2,500 course without a sales call. You can do that. Again, if you are offering a great transformation, right? The transformation was learn how to build your own sustainable online business in 90 days. That's a great transformation without breaking. That was our USP. You don't have to go live. You don't have to do social media. You can literally do this on autopilot. So next, high ticket is usually over $5,000 and it's often a combo, a hybrid of a course with coaching or one-on-one coaching or a group of people live together like a mastermind with coaching and curriculum and frameworks. So these are more intensive offerings, but they are higher revenue and you can really stack revenue so quickly whenever you go high ticket. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I think both serve a purpose. So you want to think about what specific transformation and how quick can it be done by the end user? Well, that's a $49 product. If it's one quick transformation that shifts their life. But if it's a year of immersive coaching, that's high ticket. So if you're new, I do recommend starting out with low ticket. Do some one-to-one coaching before you build those higher ticket offers, especially the more expensive courses. To update those are a bear, right? So whenever you go to create a course and you film content, you want it to be really good. I'll tell you the reason AIO Blogger is here is 10 years of coaching, launching other little courses, writing books. So it is a lot of work to get to a point of a course that can solve pain points. So don't be afraid to put in that work. Don't be afraid to coach, consult, and do that first. So whenever you're building digital products, courses, and coaching, you want to think about what is the end outcome or transformation that I can best take my clients to. And oftentimes there are 3 hot topics that emerge time and time again. Whenever you look at the top courses, the top coaches in the world, it's either health, wealth, or relationships. And wealth, by the way, can be business, right? You can teach business concepts, marketing concepts, but it's got to touch those 3 things. These are hot points for people. If you can touch their health, wealth, or relationships, right? And so once you figure out the outcome, that's what you want to work backwards from. What is the end outcome that I am offering this person? Work backwards from that outcome and think about an 8-week, a 12-week, a 16-week program, maybe lesser if it's lower ticket. I've done a 5-day course, right? That's what the AIO Blogger is. You can get it done in a week. That's low ticket. You can reverse engineer what your clients actually need to get there and then charge and build appropriately for that end outcome. So if you're concerned that your clients may not actually get the outcome and you're like, this is a big promise. First of all, can we please have more coaches that are concerned about that? actually delivering on their marketing promise? That's amazing that you're even here asking that question. So if you're not sure, please take a step back. Don't create that course. Go do more live coaching. Do more done for you. Do more done with you. Do that hands-on work, because you're going to obtain a much better idea of what that person actually needs in a course. Don't build that course first and then coach. Come at it from the coaching first, and you'll make more money. I'll tell you right now. You will. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about becoming a CEO. I can tell you there is no course I found, no book I found that actually taught me how to be a CEO. Some of Jim Collins' books are amazing, so they did help me step into that. But there was no, hey, here's how to be a CEO. So that's why I created this part of the lesson. I wanted to actually help you know what it looks like to step into this role. I've had this role for 10 years. I'm now a president and a partner, so my role looks a little different, but I am right next to the CEO, and I will continue to be there. So I stay at the top of these companies. So if that's you, if you are the CEO, then you set the culture. You lead the business, you set goals and vision, and then you keep a constant pulse on business health and revenue. Summed up, that is the best way to sum up what a CEO is responsible for. Now, there's a million things you could do, but do they fit here? This is the role of a CEO. So here's a good look at what I call a scrappy setup. And you can do something more advanced. I'll show you something even scrappier, but this is where you could go in the long run, especially if you're thinking about a business that is sustainable, where you can really be the CEO, right, and step away. So you need somebody nurturing new audiences, period. That could be marketing, that could be salesperson, but you need to have a focus on nurturing new audiences. You need somebody overseeing finance. You might have an accounting department connected to that person, HR connected to that person. That's your CFO role. And then, besides new audiences, you need leads, customers, and sales taken care of, and that's your success department. So oftentimes we think that the sales need to come from the sales department, but I will tell you, across 10 years of building a multi-million-dollar business, the sales came when I focused on client success. That is a huge secret. If all you're doing is focusing on new sales, then you're missing the opportunity, which is every single client you have is an opportunity to get 5x more work. Ask that client, hey, who do you know that needs my services? Before you ask that client that question, delight that client. I can't stress this enough. If you delight your clients, that is the best fail-proof, safe, guaranteed way to stay in business. That is your foolproof method, delighting your clients. Okay, so that's why we look at that as a client success department. Sales come from client, and if it's students, if you have coaching, consulting going on, that's your students. How successful are they at implementing your teachings? And you want to think about revisiting your goals at the beginning, either of every month, every quarter, or every year. I do it every quarter. It's a great way to set the tone for the next 4 or 5 months, and it's a great way to get ahead of what's coming. Sometimes even twice a year is better, because you want to think long term here. You don't want to think day to day for your goals. You really want to set big goals and give yourself time to achieve them. We recently signed an amazing partnership at Continent Scale. I facilitated the whole thing, closed the whole thing, saw it through. And how we did it was we built a relationship, and then I kept showing up and giving value over and over. Guess how long that took? 9 months. But now we have access to 500 potential new customers. That's huge, right? To close that partnership, though, took 9 months. That's why I recommend setting your goals and stretching time between them, allowing some time to pass. So this is how crazy this can get whenever you're building a big business. Under that growth department, writers fit in here. AI fits in here. Continent Scale, right? The AIO writer. Facebook ads, podcast production, social media. Under the CFO and the finance, that's bookkeeping, accountant, and making sure accounting runs, and then legal things. And rocketlawyer.com is a great resource if you don't want to hire the whole legal team, but you need some contracts done, you need some things done. And then under client success, this could grow to become a program strategist. That's a great name for a salesperson, somebody that gets on calls and of course customer success, which can be a whole department in and of itself. So here's typical cost and what this looks like to hire whenever you're thinking of a scrappy setup. And you can really hire from the bottom up, meaning you don't need your directors. You need your contractors first. This is how to do it so you don't pay a ton of money for people that might just tend to sit around if you have the executive but nothing for them to manage. So hire from the bottom up, simplify. And all you really need is 1 to 2 to 3 people. You can have an AIO writer writing your content with Content at Scale, and you can get way more production and you won't need to hire another writer for a long time, right? A social media manager, that person can double as a good AIO writer. I have seen AIO writers able to write great social media captions. So you could have your content writer and your social media manager be one person to start. A good designer is critical. Every marketing requires design. So whether that's Fiverr, a designer you work with, Design Pickle, a great solution, make sure you have a design resource. That's critical. And then sales. One salesperson is a great way to start off that whole customer department. And you want to think about them almost as a sales assistant, somebody that comes in, supports the calls that you make, supports the clients, maybe delivers some of the services. So when you're past capacity and that sales department, that customer success department is really growing, think about staffing people to replace what you do, which is most likely an expert service, right? And so for me, building a coaching business, I would hire coaches under me, and they were the ones showing up on the calls. So this is a scrappy setup whenever you're thinking about the bottom up, and all it takes is 3 people and then resource platforms. So with QuickBooks Online, you can manage all your books, right? I have an accountant. Even when my business was, making $50,000 a year, I still had an accountant because I don't know taxes. I don't know how to do that. I will get mired in that for hours. Don't do that. Get yourself an accountant. Bench, QuickBooks Online, great solutions for managing your books. The sales that you get, you want all that connected to one place. So your accountant can then look through all of your finances and actually make decisions for filing taxes. So with that customer and sales department, think about one person there, right? Supporting you in sales. Sales is critical. So you showing up on calls should never be replaced quickly. In fact, I'm still on calls, right? I've been doing what I've been doing for 11 years. It was the biggest myth ever. When I was building my business, it was the biggest myth ever that I had to outsource all my calls and have a call-free calendar. I can't tell you how that limited me from opportunities, because me showing up on a call, right? I am this high-energy business owner partner, and so I can show up with that energy. You don't get that necessarily from almost any salesperson you're ever going to hire. It's not their baby. So you arguably can get further in any call. You can potentially get a partnership out of that, more leads out of that, more things than you thought were possible. So don't forget that. Sales critical. You need to be on it for a long time. That said, you can absolutely get somebody to help you here. And then think about the AIO writer and a social media manager. You could combine those into one role, right? And look for an AIO writer that then can also do a few extra hours a week of social media content. So your margins, you need to think about it like this. With your ad and marketing costs, this could be anywhere from 5 to 30% of your business, right? So you want to think about that cost. And then your team can be anywhere from 20 to 40% of your business. I have ran businesses where marketing costs were 10% and the team was 30%, right? And then we had some software stack that we paid for. Although quite arguably that could be in marketing too, but if you separate it out, you do want to have some budget allocated just for tech, like Content at Scale subscription, right? Potentially QuickBooks Online, all the things that you need to run your business. So what about the tasks? How can you assign tasks to different people? So that social media manager needs to post to your brand accounts. Maybe they have a calendar that they manage and you can oversee that social media calendar. The content writer should be writing your blog content with AI because you can get so much more done now, right? So the AIO writing approach. And then a salesperson, that person that nurtures your leads, an expert down the road to help you fulfill client services. And then that bookkeeping accountant solution. So what about systems? These are some of the systems that I've used. I've ran my entire payroll, or managed it, I should say, from Google Docs, and then I've ran it in Payoneer, PayPal, Gusto. You can use so many different payroll solutions. The way you can manage it is pretty simple. Hubstaff is another great solution to track work. For finances, QuickBooks is tried and true. Team, we're using Notion. At Constant Scale, I've also used ClickUp. I love ClickUp for team management. And then for marketing, obviously, Constant Scale, right, to write content. ChatGPT Pro could be good. Airtable is another great tool for the calendar side of everything. And then, of course, your WordPress site. Email marketing tools, ConvertKit. And then you want to think about job platforms. Allocate some budget for that as well. So that was a lot, and you do not have to follow those rules, but I wanted to give you an overview of what has helped my business be successful, what has helped me be a better CEO, a better partner through the years. So some rules of thumb about how to approach being that leader, being the builder of wealth whenever you're thinking about building a business. So first of all, don't hold on to tasks that hold you back. Be quick to let go, even if it costs you. So I realized a couple weeks ago, I am sitting here answering all these emails. I'm making email intros. Why am I doing this? I need to write talks. I need to be on stages. I need to be educating new markets. I need to be helping build the product. Oh my goodness, there's so many big things I need to do. So I went and I found an executive assistant. Now that person is doing my email. Delegation is key, and you want to think about it when you're at that 2,000 or more mark. Yes, you can think about it that early. That's how important it is to be able to get out of the weeds. Also, think about your team, think about your business. Don't just clone another person's business structure because you like them. Really think about what's going to work for you in your industry with your clients. Follow your gut. Don't hire too many people. Hire the people that you need, and know that you can set up your systems and your people together. Right? And then don't outsource your leadership and your key decisions. You really want to make that yourself. So what about building a remote team? Let's talk pay rates for a little bit. So you shouldn't be paying out more than 40% of what you charge, right? So you should be bringing home that 60% margin. I like to set my pay rates after I'm looking at the project and hours. So you want to combine the project cost and the hours. And if you're doing this the AIO approach, right, you want to think about what is the cost of that. Over here on the right, we have pay rates for roles. Social media manager, 10 to 15 an hour, right? You can hire an intern, get this done for free. Sales and support. It depends on what kind of role they'll be doing. Content creation, the cost of that AI, plus a human editor. And then the expert is going to be whatever that market rate is for them. So hiring and systems, you want to keep this simple, but it's really in 4 groups: hiring, payroll, role documentation. You want to start creating documents to guide the roles in your business, and then task management. 4 simple areas. So here's how to do that. Hiring, Indeed is by far the biggest platform for finding people. This is the place that houses the most resumes, and they beat every other platform by far. It is millions and millions of resumes. Otherwise, Upwork is a great choice. Fiverr could be a good way you find designers for things like LinkedIn carousels. So you want to think about a skills-based testing process where you actually ask them to create something, a social media post, edit the AI written blog, and you want to sell this to them. You can see how we do this in our AIO job listing by telling them, hey, we're going to skip that hour-long Zoom call, that Zoom interview, however long it is, and all you're going to do is this instead. So you're actually saving them time and yourself. On payroll, you can start with PayPal. That's a great solution. I've started with. QuickBooks also has a direct deposit system to their bank, and Google Docs, of course, is free. You can set up a spreadsheet and have individual docs per person, and then simply have those people track their work on those sheets. Now that's manual, right? There are tools to do this, like Hubstaff, where they just log hours inside Hubstaff. ClickUp is another one. So for role documentation, you want to think about SOPs, right? Standard operating procedure guidelines. House these inside your task management system. So in ClickUp, I manage my team. ClickUp, I also store my docs that guide my team, right? My new coaches get this orientation doc, get this role document. And then Slack is a way that we communicate on a daily basis. So what about marketing and sales? How do we prioritize this correctly whenever we're building a wealth-bringing business? So we've talked about this before, but there is a hamster wheel trap that I see all the time. It's prioritizing marketing when there's a famine, and then focusing on client work when there's a feast. And then you forget to actually continually do those two things. And instead, you get stuck in this terrible cycle that stops growth. So you need to prioritize your own marketing. You need to fire up the AI and get blogs written for your own site. You need to have a great site. So even when you have clients coming in, you need to be posting on your blog on a consistent basis. Think about writing that book you want to write. Right? Post stories on social media. So you're not going to fall in this trap. I want you to promise yourself that right now. No famine or feast. Right? No famine or feast. So here's how. Here's some tactical ways to actually do this that I think you'll really like. Again, I didn't learn this from anyone. You might not need to learn this. Maybe you're really good at it. Or maybe you're like, help me, Julia. So if you separate your day into marketing and sales, hat tip, you can also separate your week into this. If you were like me and you're a big sprints person, I like to spend a whole day writing. But sometimes it's not possible. Well, at least I've spent half the day writing because I've blocked it out. I've made it a plan on the calendar. That's critical. So if your time is equally divided between your marketing and then your clients and your sales, you won't fall in that trap. So marketing, I like to split into two things. My baseline marketing that's always going on. That's my blog, always in production. I have an AIO writer, always writing new content. We're looking at topics together every single few weeks. And then I have creativity-led marketing. And this is by far a strategy that changed my life, right? Because I tried all the things. I tried the YouTube schedule where I was going to film every Monday. I tried the going live schedule where I was going to go live every Thursday. And I'll tell you what happens is you get stuck in a rut and then you forget your inspiration. Marketing is only as good as how inspired you are. It's the truth. Your messaging, the power of who you can reach, it's strategy and inspiration. You got to have strategy. You got to have skills. You got to know what you're doing, right? But you also really, really have to be inspired to be able to put out a good message. This is especially true for founders that are on camera, that are speaking. You need to be inspired. Otherwise, don't even film. It's just not worth it. It'll take way too long. It'll feel like a chore. So that really changed my life when I thought about those two things. I'm going to have a baseline form of marketing always going, but then I'm also going to be letting my creativity lead me. And so I make time for that, right? Like I'm inspired to go do this networking thing. It popped up last minute, but I can meet these amazing people there. Let me go. And then by going, I get product ideas, bringing me back to building up sales, right? Making sales. So be open to the last minute ideas, innovation, opportunities, the doors that crack open. Be open. Don't be stuck in such a hour by hour routine. Yes, get work done, but don't be stuck in routine so badly that you can't be innovative. So when it comes to sales, you want to think about the immediacy and then the growth for the future. You got to think about today and you got to think about tomorrow. So tomorrow is systems that manage your people, ads running, potential opportunities to hire more people. Your immediate priorities, that call on the calendar, the clients you need to talk to, right? But think about these two things. You want to have growth activities going on. Maybe you're writing a book in the background. Maybe you're setting up ClickUp before you get your first AIO writer. You're building your system for them. And then you've got that call at 2 p.m. with that potential client. But you really want to have both happening. So here's what my week typically looks like. And of course, we got lots more hours in the day. So we could easily say 5 hours for marketing and 5 hours for sales. But what I want you to do is at least devote 1 hour on your calendar, ideally to both, 1 hour to marketing, 1 hour to sales. But if you're really crunched, just devote 1 hour to sales. What's going to happen is you're going to start to think differently in a sprint-based style. And if you sprint through your work and you don't let things interrupt you, my phone is on silent and it's on the floor. My door is shut. Nobody could interrupt me right now. If people try to, and I have a husband, I have kids that live in my house. If people try to, it's not going to happen. You have to do that. But that takes a new way of thinking because we're not taught to think like that, right? We're taught to allow ourselves to be interrupted. So whenever it comes to doing great work, you can't be interrupted. You have to focus. That takes discipline. So if you don't have that yet, here's a way to do it. 1 hour. Commit to that hour. I'm going to do that marketing task. I'm going to film that video. And I'm going to spend at least 1 hour on it. Block out everything else. If you do that consistently, you will start to change your habits. You will see it happen. So I'm telling you, this works. Do it. Put an hour on your calendar for marketing and sales, ideally both, but if you're really crunched, pick one of the two and devote time to it. And you can increase this, right, depending on how much you want or need to do. So for me, for example, Thursday, all morning was marketing. All morning was creating content for a newsletter, creating content for creating strategy, looking at topics for the blog, looking at how do we put out product release announcement. And then the next 2 hours, I was out networking. I was creating connections, making sales, right? I'm telling you, you will grow your business like crazy if you do this. It's crazy. So here's what marketing and sales could also look like. Maybe you're doing reels. Maybe you're writing a LinkedIn post. And then for that sales hour, you're focusing on getting that call booked. You have a call with a potential client. Or maybe you're hiring and you're managing people to deliver that service for you. And then the next 3 hours, you're building out your calendar. You're spending time in content at scale. So you could be in content at scale using the keyword research tab and adding 10, 30 topics to your calendar. You could be interviewing experts, gathering that recording as input for the AI to write great content from. So those kinds of things, right? I'm telling you, once you think like this, your mind will begin to think differently and you will be devoting time to the right things, which is the biggest, by far the biggest roadblock, the biggest hurdle. Not enough entrepreneurs actually devote time to the right things. So this is critical, right? And you've learned some creative skills just by going through this course. You've learned how to build a blog. You've learned what goes into topical authority. You've learned keyword research strategies. And you've seen me write content. You've been able to look over my shoulder at how that's done. You have some creative skills. You can let that creativity that you've been building, those skills that you've been building, guide you here. So it's time to hire an AIO writer. Well, maybe you're looking at their interview results. You've been through this course. You know what good content looks like. So the skills that you have can really inspire and guide the right kind of creativity, because there's nothing worse than misled creativity that has no compass, right? You need to know what you're doing to do it well. That's another huge myth. Well, let's just get out marketing. Well, hold on. Do you know how to do it? So never stop doing your marketing. If you're like, can't do marketing this week, next week, you're going to do the same. So that's why it's so important to do this regularly. Too many missed opportunities will continue to set you back. And then you're going to fall backwards into that hamster wheel trap that's not good. We want to go forwards. We want to be taking steps forward every day. You do have the power to choose. You can say yes or no. Pick your baseline. What's that baseline form of marketing? Blogging is a great baseline. It's the only baseline I will ever pick because it lasts. I don't care if Instagram Reels don't go out. I do care if content doesn't go out. That's building my website. That's building my own traffic stream that I get to own, right? And then I'm letting my creativity lead. I'm going to write an Instagram carousel. I don't know when. And that sounds crazy, but I'm going to let my creativity lead. If I sit down and I write an Instagram carousel and it's crap because I wasn't inspired, what do you think is going to happen? It's not going to go well. So again, after 10 years, that's when I really learned that allowing my own creativity to lead me on what I want to do for my marketing, sitting down, doing research, getting inspired, having an open book there on what I can do, that can actually lead you to incredible marketing results. So let yourself be inspired and act accordingly to that inspiration. So here's what an actual week could look like. If you're doing the right things, you are separating marketing and sales. So on Monday, you could be spending a couple hours setting up your entire blogging strategy, learning how to use content at scale, passing it off to your AIO writer, finding that AIO writer. The last half of the day, you're delivering client services. Maybe you're setting up ClickUp in the background because you're growing. You need to go hire people. Maybe you're at the earlier stage and you're taking clients. You're taking those calls. You're delivering that service yourself. But you want to think about now and then future, right? So how can I grow in the future? How can I build systems and processes, SOPs? My ClickUp, I'm going to get that started, right? A Notion board, I'm going to get something started to document what I need to be doing so that I can pass that off to somebody down the road. Think big. One of the biggest problems with entrepreneurs is they think too small. And that is the thing that limits you. So start thinking, what would it look like to have a team? What would it look like to have so many clients that I need a team? And then the other half of your day could be recording a podcast. You might want to launch that podcast. If you like talking, do a podcast. If you enjoy speaking and talking to the camera, talking to people, that's YouTube. If you like writing, think about writing a story for LinkedIn. Right? Think about putting together a very clear story that brings in your target client, brings in your target audience, right? Not just any story, not just any content. When it's on social media, it needs to be targeted. And we have a bonus lesson just on that. So work according to your inspiration level. I'll tell you, some days I'm tired. Hey, we're human here. Yes, I know I work in AI. This course is all about AI. But in the end, you are human. You're not a robot. If you're tired, if you don't feel like doing hair and makeup, if you don't feel like getting on camera, don't do it. Pick another marketing task. Do the blog strategy instead. Stay behind the scenes. Cater to how you feel. And as strange as that sounds, because you don't hear this advice, you will get better results in your marketing. So, I'm doing hair and makeup and then I'm bashing content because I don't like doing that a lot. I work from home. I want to show up and not have to straighten or curl my hair. Speaking to the ladies here. But sometimes I do want to dress up. I do want to get on camera. So work according to how you feel inspired. And then I'll tell you, sometimes I'm reading other marketing, immersed in other people's marketing and content, and then I get inspired. And if I get really inspired, that's the time to sit down and I write a YouTube outline. I write the outline for a blog. I give my AO blogger a topic. Inspiration. I'm telling you, follow it. And whenever I stopped forcing myself to produce and I let the creativity lead, my own creativity, I let that lead what I was going to do, I was a way better CEO, way better president, right? And more actually gets done if you do this. But again, you got to focus, right? We talked about you've got to devote the hour a day to marketing. What that marketing task is might not matter. It's going to change a lot, but you've got to put that on your calendar. So don't let this be me telling you not to actually make the time. You've got to make the time. But what it is you do, let your creativity inspire you. Remember, you're in control. So when you're thinking about social media content in particular, when you're putting this together, you want to be entertaining, educational, or you want to empower. If you can hit on one of those two, on two of those three, on one of those three, on three of those three, amazing. Sometimes you're doing all three. Maybe you are funny as you're educating, as you're empowering, right? One example, an amazing, amazing video comes from Recollected Self on Instagram. And she shared this reel about what boundaries actually sound like. And you hear a bunch of punches. And then she's writing a truth every time there's a punch about staying strong on your boundaries. She's a therapist. She helps people overcome that. How relevant, how awesome is that content to her audience, right? And so for me, the baseline is always the blog. I might do a reel as I get inspired, but you're not going to find me doing a reel often at all. Like, I would rather do big stuff and then let my marketing take care of itself with the AIO blogging approach. So when you're looking at the ROI of your marketing, you want to have analytics in place. SEMrush, Google Analytics, Ahrefs, all those are great tools. You want to look at the actual analytics. How is this content doing? And you're going to see slow and steady traffic growth if you commit to 3 to 12 months. 1 blog a week, 2 blogs a week. Be committed. Produce often, right? And if you're focusing on client and sales and marketing, you're going to be doing this. And all you need to manage your blog really is like 3 hours a month once you have your AO writer and the process going. It's going to be amazing. But don't be afraid to be the AIO blogger, to run the machine first yourself, right? If you know what you're doing, we talked about directed skills, skills with a compass, creativity with a compass. You need to know what you're doing so you can delegate it appropriately. So your baseline, you can grow this to be a very small, you don't have to do a ton of work to maintain that AIO blog, which is a beautiful thing, because then you can let your creativity lead you on some really amazing marketing that you can do over time. So we're seeing steady growth at ContentHacker.com, same with ConstantScale.ai, and we're using AI content. AI content is writing the majority of our baseline content. So what about the ROI of marketing? Whenever it comes to creative marketing, you want to think about conversations out of stories, out of the creative pieces that you put out. So start conversations. I can't tell you how important this is on social media. Social media, your best ROI is conversations, getting people to message you. So here's a really simple way to do that. I show a screenshot of people purchasing my programs, and then I say, hey, are you smashing your offers out of the park? Tap yes or no. And then I went to all the people that said no, and guess what? One person said no. That's one client, because that's exactly what I do. This is a tip I learned from a business coach, and it changed my life whenever I started getting interactive and asking people to give me an answer on social media. That is your best ROI. It's a conversation. So on Facebook, I'm writing stories, and then I'm posting things like free classes, lead magnets, that type of thing in the comments. And of course, I am now a partner and a president, so I'm no longer just that entrepreneur. I have a different perspective of how I post content. But whenever I was posting content as the entrepreneur, as the blogger, content creator, this is what I did, and it worked really well. So again, you're going to think about marketing and sales. Marketing, baseline marketing plus creativity led. You want to inspire your ideal client audience, empower or educate them. When it comes to sales, immediate priorities, the calls, the clients, the networking, the growth, and then in the long run, the things that will grow your business. The things that will create sustainable growth, a system, a project management system, right? Okay, so we're going to wrap here. If you haven't yet, get that clear, memorable brand name. Get your website built. If you have already done that, go with the 50-50 approach. Split your week, and you can literally take an hour gap twice. 1 hour, twice per day. Each hour gap is marketing and sales, and turn off everything. Try it. I'm telling you, it will change your life. And if you're already doing this, amazing. Good stuff. Not many people are focusing. Not many people have the discipline, right? And that's what you're going to build whenever you shift your habits into, let me now actually do some great marketing. Let me now actually get my sales done. Plow through that email inbox. Answer those people. And then step into, if you are the AIO blogger creating your own brand, step into the shoes of a CEO. Think about what you need to delegate. Build processes, build SOPs, get a management platform to manage your future team from. And then I can't stress how important it is to surround yourself with other people that encourage you to grow. And that's why we have an amazing community at Content Hacker, where we're putting together people just like you. You can learn more about that in the lesson on certification, because you have a badge you can now get. You can learn more all about how to promote yourself and attach that to your LinkedIn profile. So we'll share that in the next lesson, but I want to encourage you to consider joining the Content Hacker community, which we'll share in the next lessons as well, because you need people around you that will help you grow. Whether that's a networking group you attend, a mastermind, the Content Hacker community, make sure you are not doing this alone. That is the last tip I'll leave you with. Do not do this alone. Get your tribe around you. But you can do this. Change your thinking. If you're not thinking on these things the way I've presented, really challenge yourself to change your thinking. Be committed to focusing on marketing and sales. Be committed to putting time on the calendar just for those things, and be focused. And then step into the thinking of a CEO. These are the things that will change your life. These are the things that will build a wealth-bringing brand. These are the things that will build that wealth, that legacy. But we have to think differently because we're not taught this, right? So I wish you the best, and I'll see you in the next lessons.